5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Hello, Dilly Gill checking in here, and all praise to God who has kept me sufficiently frustrated with technology that I have had to review this far more times than I would have on my own if left to my own devices. There's been a lot of stuff going wrong with my new computer, which has just meant that I've had to go over it time after time after time, and it's no coincidence because I've picked up more and more and more. So I want to start with this incident here, which is early on in the footage that's been sent to me by NASA. It's the camera is at the moment is up on the Canada arm, and I just think that they've thought that they're far enough away that it's not going to show. And the Crapo-vision is strong throughout this. It's we'll get into that later. So getting too close to things doesn't always make things any clearer. So this is actually pretty darn close. This is a big zoom. So we've got the harness rigging that is exposed. There's this dark area here and a little bit of confusion as he spins round, but then you get to see the harness in all its glory. He comes around here, so the harness is currently just behind this lip of clothing. As he comes round, it's coming into view here. As you're starting to see it there. And there it is, going forward slowly now. And that's, you know, fanboys, if you want to deny that that's a harness, that's your business, but you aren't going to get a better opportunity than this. This is official NASA footage straight from them. And this is an opportunity to break the spell that NASA has on you. That is them using a harness, and it's an unpleasant thought that you've been lied to. And instinctively, if this is one of the first ones that you're watching, you're going to think, oh no, it's nothing. That seems to be the standard response. You got nothing. Going backwards now, just so that we can see that again. There it is. Going backwards still. Coming forwards again. And this is strong. This is powerful evidence of a fraud. We'll discuss patterns of fraud and what have you later on. But it's just not going to get any better than that for you. You need to break that spell and start to question, seriously question, what is going on. So, a very quick mission overview. There is a lot of this. I think they had a problem with the water jet expulsion system, and so there's a lot of footage of this. I haven't studied the outside footage very closely at all. My main focus is on the internal. I will be loading all of this up to the entire mission up to my new site. Details on that to follow. There is some satellite launching. There's quite a bit of this. This is a satellite down here, it's not a shadow reflection. There's some of this, which I think is done in the 0G plane, and it's got Crapo-vision on. We'll get into that later. There's quite a lot of this. That's the satellite again. There's an interview with this guy, and this is one of the big events, building of the swizzle stick and the fly SWAT. I'll get into that later, obviously. There's this long interview, which we will examine closely. There is, I think, 2 spacewalks. I haven't studied it that closely. Some of it in quite good quality, some of it in not such good quality. There's this footage, which is the toys experiments. There is some black and white footage of the spacewalks. There's a fair amount of this. This is the swizzle stick and the fly SWAT in action. There is a massive amount of this. I won't be loading this up on the main. It's at least an hour's worth of it. If anyone really wants it, I will load it up for you. But unless you want it, I ain't loading it up. It's just a waste of time. There is quite a lot of footage of this, the flies in space. There's some of this. And then there's this, which is the Aeroflex camera, which is a movie grade camera. So we've got better imagery. And short clips of the spacewalk with the Aeroflex camera. And then with the Aeroflex camera, we've got internal footage as well. And with the Aeroflex camera, we get the footage of them getting into their spacesuits. And I'm going to make you wait to find out if we get the full unedited footage. No, I won't. It's a fraud. Of course, we're not going to get the full unedited footage. Crapo-vision is the willful degradation of the transmission quality, and I think I found a good example of what it might well be. I think this is an effect added in to make it very hard to determine what is on the screen. So this comes in as a transmission upload or downlink, but it's the start of the transmission. So just moving through this frame by frame, you can see that it comes into focus. So there, now it's in focus, but if we fast forward just a little bit so we can say that we're well and truly into the scene, if I zoom in on this, you can see that it's just full of all these little lines that had just appeared on the beginning of the transmission, and I think that is the effect that they use. So let's just go back a little bit to the transmission and look at all those lines. They're so similar to this. So I think running behind the transmission is this, to deliberately degrade the quality as well as the color effect, which I'll cover in a second. So something like that. If we zoom in on that and then move it forward, you can see it's just so similar. I think this is the special effect that they use to get the Crapo-vision, and it's very effective. Another part of Crapo-vision is the ability to add colours, and here we have them adding blue and purple. They've also got this green, which they definitely, I've got other screens where the green is the main colour, and red as well. And then that seems to give us this colour, and we'll just compare that to some of the others. And here's another good example. It's right at the end of the scene, and as we cut from the image, it goes half purple there, green and red, and then cut. And I think that's an effect that they add. A very quick overview for those who don't know my work. My theory is that the space shuttle was in fact a zero-G plane, that it could blast off to a height of 70 kilometers, free fall from there, pulling out at 90,000 feet, including the arc, would give a 2-minute free fall time. That was the original theory. I now think that's 2 minutes 20. The OMS pods are actually just jet engines in disguise. The thrusters at the back are real to get that height, and it would be stripped down to an absolute bare minimum, wouldn't be carrying any cargo or excess weight, and so therefore be able to achieve the height. The reason I'm adjusting the timings to 2 minutes 20 is because of the length of footage that I've seen. I put in a Freedom of Information Act request with NASA for all the footage from 2 entire missions, and this is my analysis of the first one, mission 16, STS 51D. So this is one of the opening scenes. This comes in at 2 minutes 44. I'm not going to cover every single scene, but this one is of interest. I think the space shuttle was a zero-G plane. I think the flight time in zero-G was 2 minutes 20, maybe 2 minutes 30, but that this one is coming in at 2:44 could mean that it's either done in reduced G, which it's a known fact that zero-G flights get longer on the reduced 1/3 and 1/6 G flights, so it could be done like that, and there is a reason I think that, or it could be done in the studio. And I'll show you why I think that. There is a scene coming up here. Let me just fast forward to it, and I have marked up. So this is the weightless part of this scene, and he's opened something up and a little something pops out, and you can see that it accelerates. Now people might want to say that that is airflow, but the airflow would be having to come from directly under this way. The most likely source of airflow would be coming from over this direction. Now it could be that in the plane as they're falling, that is the direction of the gravity in the reduced gravity scene, or it could be a special effect being pulled on a string. There are a couple other little bits that come out, but we'll just focus on that one again. So those markers I've done at 10-point intervals on the finer setting of my computer, but there's definitely acceleration there. I mean, you can actually see it. This one goes on, seems to get stuck on him. But so that's just a small opening scene. I don't want to get too caught up in that. It could be either. This is an important scene for me. I think it was recorded in a zero-G shuttle. The reason they keep the Crapo-vision on, and you can see the colouring and graining in this scene, is so that when they want longer scenes and have to use harnesses even in the zero-G shuttle, the difference in quality and quantity is not noticed, whilst at the same time there are bits of footage that have the tricks that are in genuine zero-G for up to 2 minutes, which the special effects available at the time could not have generated. So far as I can tell, they had a VCR recorder that was hooked up to the cameras inside and outside the shuttle, so had the potential to record lots of footage. They created scenes that could easily consume time, such as the sonograph recordings, but had to keep the VCR quality down in order for the scenes longer than 2 minutes that required harness work not to look too different from the good stuff recorded on the zero-G shuttle. I will put in a clip later on to show the difference in quality between NASA imagery and movie imagery of the time. Throughout the post-flight press presentations, the description they give of zero-G is always very different to the description they give of seeing the ball. By their own descriptions, zero-G seems far more real than seeing the ball or beholding the mighty universe. And in the zero-G shuttle, they would be completely enclosed, because if they had any lights, any windows to the outside, it would affect the lighting of the scene. So this would be completely enclosed, and this is obviously artificial lighting. And just very quickly, I forgot to mention under Crapo-vision that reduced frame rate would create motion blur, which is an important part of the trickery.
Zero G is something else. That is something that all of you should have an opportunity to experience. It is really fun.
You know, if you could do that in your living room without breaking your leg, you sure would.
There's no problem trying to restrain yourself anywhere down there. I'm in the process here of changing out one of our LiO canisters, which is used to, that we run the air through to take out all the CO2 and any contamination. It's a very easy job. We had a couple of troughs down there where we stow LiO canisters, and you could just fit your legs down in there and kind of push them apart, and it restrains you very nicely.
Look at this. It shows the mobility that we have down the middeck. People thought we needed restraint systems to tie ourselves down in there. You don't need any of that. Now watch this mobility that Bob has when he kicks off and goes up to the top side. Boy, I'll tell you, if that isn't the neatest thing in the world.
The thing about it is you don't really go flying around. You need to move a little bit slowly, otherwise you'll end up banging into something, but there's no problem controlling yourself any place you want to go.
Try that in one gravity and see where it gets. Shows what the television will show you out the window, and shows what a great view those spectacular windows gave us. Here's another television view of the Earth.
The J-cut is when audio from the next scene starts before you get to it.
I can't, I gotta go home.
So you hear what's going on before you see what's going on. These are very subtle editing techniques that people might not even notice, and that's the point. The J-cut and the L-cut are designed to specifically create a seamless flow, a seamless transition from one scene to another, with audio guiding the way.
Hey, Gordy, I got something for you. This, my friend, is for you.
Forward pivot was 5 minutes 04 seconds. The heel pin was 5 minutes 16 seconds. In every case, we got 2 out indications. Final indicated positions are 9-9 for the aft.
Worthy of note for me as well is this scene in that sequence of scenes, because it goes on for 2 minutes 30, and I do seem to be a bit obsessed about finding out the true time of the freefall time of the 0G shuttle. This is why I think the base shuttle was a 0G shuttle, because scenes like this where I think the level of trickery involved would be too great and the special effects couldn't account for it. Now I don't want to get too obsessed with this. That 2 minutes 30 is the total length of the scene. At the beginning there's a chance for 10 seconds worth of just before they tip over into the freefall, and at the end there's some really weird colouring. So it's merely a curiosity for me, but an interesting scene nonetheless. So they suffer LOS, loss of signal, and come back in a completely different visual setup. The communication is minimal and is easily done from script with timings. Knowing the plot is the art of good theatre, if indeed they are even bothered to have somebody performing live in the control centre. Now this scene is really interesting for me because it covers so many things. We get the 2 minute 45 timing, which is above the timing that I'd like, but I think this could be done in 1/6G, but it also covers the idea that either this is done in using wires, or the 0G shuttle is rigged with wires as well. And I'll show you why I think this. So the evidence of 0G comes here. I'll just play this. This guy pops up from here, and obviously they're moving around, but that could be easily described by wires. And oh, I've got the volume up still. There, sorted it out. So yeah, he pops up and then pops down a bit, and this thing flies up from the back there. But I think that all of that could be done in 16G very easily, or it could be done with wires and a prop over there. So either, or both. It could be wires and 16G. And I'll show you why I think that as well, because later on, so they just go through the scene. The audio is very minimal, and it comes up to here, and I'm just going to have to zoom in a bit. Now this goes down to Crapo-vision and the effectiveness of it, because it is an effective tool. I think they've got, most of the time I think they've got the wires right on the outside. Let's just get on to most sensitive. So my computer's playing up as well, which doesn't help. So it's this area here. If we watch that as we run through the scene, so let's just get rid of the call out. So I think he's got a back thing, and then there's a good, what I think is a good shot of it. Now of course there's this is just onto the black scene here, and we've got the blue and black, so we always have to be mindful of things going on in the background. But he comes through there, and again you get to see it there with the blue background. So I'll just go back and we'll have another look at that. So there it is coming through. We just catch it in a slightly better light. We get to see it there. Then he starts to turn around, and then we'll just move forward. So there again, it looks like we get to see it again. Again. And yet with the Crapo-vision, you know, the fanboys would be able to put up a reasonable defence. Well, it's just too poor quality. But that's why I think the Crapo-vision is so excellent. I think a lot of the time they've got the wires out in plain view. And we will just keep going, right, because this comes up right to the end of the scene. And he does turn, we do get, oh yeah, so that is the end of the scene. So just going backwards now, I'll just decrease the sensitivity slightly and reset the scene. So I just want to run through that again backwards. So going backwards. So the motion blur as well with the low camera rate, frame rate. There's a good view of it. There's the next view of it. And I think that's pretty much it. So it could be either, it could be both. It's just fascinating. So just very quickly, I want to cover the transition scenes. So they transition from this into this, which is the scene we just covered. And then these all just cuts. It looks like transitions, but it just gives them a chance to put the stuff together. Then into this, then into this, into that, into that, into that, into that, into that, then finally into this really long scene. So very quickly from this scene we have, this is just before the final scene, and they cut in and out in 1 minute 53, and we have this for the 0G effect, and he also pulls out the lighter in a sec. I assume it's lighter, and we get, just going backwards quickly there, so we get this as well. So interestingly for me, that's 1 minute 53. So moving on very quickly to this final scene, we have no communication in it, it's just the Hypnotoad sound effect, and it was actually from here that I got it, but it's throughout quite a bit of it. So let's just race through, because this obviously could all be done on wires, but the scene is 5 minutes 30, and I am sure that they've done it on wires. Now fanboys, when I show you this first scene, I want you to think of the harness that I showed you at the beginning. So here we get this camera, which he doesn't actually do any tricks with, and he looked like he was going to at one stage, but then wasn't comfortable with it. But we get a shaft of light come through and catch the string as it comes through. So I don't want to take too long on this. Now if we take that through frame by frame, you can see that it lands on this nodule here. So here it comes. That is the string, and it seems to land there. Now whether they got another string, as we follow this down coming through here, you can see there seems to be a bit of an after effect. Now whether that's just the sunlight spilling through or the same sunlight not quite catching the other string properly, I don't know. I suppose it depends on the level of trick that they were going to use, but it does seem to end on this nodule here, and there possibly could be another string. It's hard to say, but let's just look at that backwards and forwards. That is the string. Now, so for me, that proves that this is done using wires, and you know, think what you want, I suppose. So the next thing very quickly is this scene, and I'm just going to play this. This if you watch this fully all the way through, I think it's on a spring, and it's kind of like the neutral buoyancy tank type thing. It doesn't seem to float around like modern day stuff does, you know, so that should be floating up there and up here, and being, if it was really in 0G, so that's just a small thing. And then moving right to the end of the scene. So this has gone on, the scene goes on and on and on, and they're just moving around. He does get over there, but I think he could do that on a wire with holding up on the top there, and there would be a point where they would have to tip into 0G. Now either this is done fully in the studio and I just don't understand the last trick, or this is done flying along and then tipping into 0G. So I think around about here would be a good point for them to tip into 0G with her feet secured, him holding on. They could easily tip into 0G, and she does seem to be a little bit disconcerted, or you know, there seems to be a change in her approach. Just anyway, so that was that. But this last bit, there's another bit after this. Actually, it's quite interesting. So he sets himself up here for the 0G trick. Now either this is done in the studio or they've just tipped into 0G flying along on the plane, but he tries to make this look accidental, so he knocks that. But if you watch this, there's no way that's accidental. He deliberately shoves it and then it bounces off there. So let's just have a closer look at that. So he knocks it. Now a couple of things occur to me. So this spins around. Now whether that bumps into him or is just getting caught on it, and then that guy picks it up. So after he knocks it, that could be a rubber tarpaulin, or they could just be in free fall now. Now it hits here, it seems to hit something, but it could also be a yank where it changes direction there. It does seem to come close to the edge. Could be somebody behind there giving it a push. This would be a well-rehearsed scene, but this also could be on wires. This is why I find it interesting, and it could be a mix of both. And then it does seem to bump into him, and then he picks it up. And also, just to show the vision quality rubbishiness, we have him coming down to pick it up, and you know, like we got the see-through arm effect. This is how poor the quality is. And then just before I show you the very last, I'm going to have to do this again. So right at the end here, now in my other recording it picked it up, and in this one it hasn't, which I find interesting because I will show you the other recording. We come to the end here and it changes colour, and I get an extra colour here which highlights something very interesting over here. So so we go to purple there, and this comes up, and it's pointless zooming in too much. I mean, you can see the Crapo-vision that I talked about. You got your little squares here, but this seems to be a bigger square with possibly the harness coming here, because her movement is so minimal. I just wonder whether we need whether she needs just the absolute minimal rig. And I'll just move it one forward because it changes colour again, so into the red there. But that's what it looks like normally. So switching from that to that. Now I would concede for the fanboys that it could be, you know, something to do with the Crapo-vision, but I actually think that might be part of her rigging. It's just exposed under the different light. It's revealed the sort of metallic nature. Some of it's done in black. This I think was done in silver, and I do think that's why I think that either the 0G shuttle is designed to be rigged for wiring as well to get longer scenes, or this was all done in the studio and we just don't understand how the trick with, or I don't understand how the trick with the flipboard was done. So yeah, that's that scene. Right, I want to move on to the smoking gun, the next smoking gun I have. And just before I do that, this is my new channel, Nota at Last. So that's NASA on the F.O.I.A record at last. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up all of STS 51D. I'm going to do it in the length of each presentation I was given by NASA in reverse order, so that when it comes up on here it will be in the main order. I'm going to create a playlist for 51D, and then for STS 32 mission 33, when I eventually load that up, which I will do the analysis first before I do that, which is going to take some time. All of this will take some time. And then I will also do, after I've loaded up all of that, I will do all the internal footage as an edited thing, and then all the external footage as an edited thing, excluding any really boring repetitive scenes like the heartbeat monitor and the water jet expulsion system. So in the interests of speed, and to cut this incredibly long analysis I did of this scene, there's this sticky out bit here which looks a little bit more like a harness. They seem to try to fix it. This is up, and this guy comes into view much later. I'll just race through the scene, ignoring all the stuff that I've had. You can watch it a little bit as I race through it, but it went on far too long. I'll just show you the key bit of this. Sorry, my computer's playing up again. So I'll bring the books in, and it tries to hide it. That the book's on a string. It's quite nicely done. But then we get to this guy here, and I'll just play the analysis from here. So original analysis, bit out of sync. What I think, I mean, obviously it's got the Crapo-vision on, and this is the trouble with Crapo-vision. You end up chasing so many red herrings, because with, you know, when you know that you don't live on a spinning ball and everything they show you out the GoPro window is a lie, you can see that that is a harness. As he comes around right here for, I'll probably put an hour out there, the fanboys do have difficulty seeing. I think there's a bit of it goes up into his black shirt, but he moves out the way, so I'll just roll that backwards. Going backwards now. Sometimes it's easier going a little bit faster. So you get to see his harness there. They've got the book. So that was the very short version. He only pops into scene very briefly, but obviously that will all be in the original upload, and that's from that scene. Right, I need to finish up and get this published because it's half term coming up and I've got some stuff I need to do at work. This final scene that I'm going to just focus on really quickly has, I think, it's done in the studio, and it's got, you know, this book over here has got evidence of wires next to it, but I don't think they're even trying to hide that, because the wire would be to keep that in place. He does a couple of zero-G tricks with a prop, but the thing weirdly I want to focus on is this door up here. Now I just think this is the door to one of the key experiments they spent a lot of money on, and this is, you know, supposed to be a highly precision engineered operation. So as he opens this door, it looks like it's under gravity and the hinges are undersized. So let's just watch this. I mean, really, for your millions of dollars? I mean, I could have done a better job on the door, and I've done similarly bad. I've hung doors before. There's no reason it should do this in 0G. Never mind the fact that it should be properly hinged. Pathetic, honestly, it really is. So then finally, just before we close out,
Are there any questions, Houston?
Yeah, are you taking this in a studio with Crapo-vision on and some really cheap props? Over.
Well, I think that's definitely true.
cue the music.
We now join America's most popular show, already in progress. Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
not here. I'm not seeing this. This is on TV. And I'm sure after we all get back, we're going to feel the same way. That didn't really happen.